Welcome back, MTN Giants podcast, previewing the Giants at the Cleveland Browns in Week 3. The Browns are 6.5-point favorites right now. It was 6, but I guess it got up to 6.5. Game's at 1 p.m. The Giants have had some news come out this week that's not great. Things about Jalin Hyatt that he has denied since. We'll talk about that. Some speculation from Jordan Raanan that maybe Brian Daboll's losing the locker room. So it's a big week for the Giants. I mean, not just to win the game, but to really try and save some jobs possibly. We'll see how bad this season can get. But being pretty much touchdown underdogs in Week 3 after starting 0-2 in two pretty winnable games is not where you want to be. So we'll see what happens. We'll go over the Browns offense, defense, and make the NFL spread picks at the end. Hope you guys enjoy. Leave a like, and let's get into it. So Jalin Hyatt, of course, we'll start with him. His playing time has been very questionable this year. A guy that at some point in the training camp was like the wide receiver 2. And now he's the wide receiver 4. He's playing pretty much below 20% of snaps. And we're all sitting here wondering, like, what the hell went wrong here? And this Jordan Raanan article came out either yesterday or Thursday, and there was a little paragraph in there, and I'll read this in a second, but he said, there was a moment late in the summer when it appeared this might go sideways. Unhappy with the situation, Hyatt said during practice that if the Giants weren't going to use him, they should trade him, multiple team sources told ESPN. Now, Hyatt, of course, has come out and denied all of this, but you have to wonder if that's, if he's being honest about it. I mean, I could see a young player in his position who, of course, had so much success at college, and you come into the NFL and you are this great deep threat. You have an offense that has not pushed the ball down the field, and Jones has not had a good deep ball in a while. So I could see where he would be frustrated, but to the point where he would possibly ask for a trade, I don't know if it went that far, but I could tell he's clearly unhappy. And Brian Daboll has come out and tried to put the fire out and said that Hyatt and him are, very close and there's no issue here, nothing to see here, right? It's like that dog meme with the fire. This is fine. So I don't know what to believe, but it is something we'll keep an eye on and see if Hyatt gets more snaps this week. Also, Jordan Raanan had on his podcast talking about how he being Brian Daboll, might be closer to losing the locker room than we think, and we'll see if that escalates to that point or not. Of course, winning does cure all, so if they do win this week, that will definitely put a stop to a lot of that conversation for now. But if they go out here in Cleveland and the offense looks horrible and Deshaun Watson looks like vintage Deshaun and they kill the Giants, then yeah, there's going to be some questions to answer. The seat gets warmer, and we'll see where it goes from there. So, kicker news, the Giants did sign Greg Joseph. Greg Joseph, of course, was the guy who kicked that 61-yard game winner versus the Giants. I think that was Christmas Eve of 2022. The Giants had that tough loss at Minnesota, but they went over there a few weeks later and beat them in the playoffs. So Greg Joseph is now a Giant. I'm not sure right now who the kicker will be on Sunday. I don't think they've announced that yet. But obviously it will not be Graham Gano, who's on IR with that hamstring issue. Some other injury news that came out. This one came out recently. Of course, I always say that when a late week injury pops up, it always scares me. And Brian Burns was now a person that popped up yesterday with a groin injury. He had a limited practice on Friday. So we'll see if he does play or not. I would assume he does, but I guess we'll see. Nick McLeod is still out. Darius Muasau is still questionable. Seems like everybody else is good to go. Isaiah Simmons, Kayvon, Illuminor, Nacho, they're all good to go probably. For the Browns, the big one's Myles Garrett, who didn't practice on Thursday, had a limited practice on Friday. He has this foot injury. I think I saw it was both feet, so he might need off-season surgery, and we'll see how long it can last for. Maybe by the time the Browns are out of it, if it gets that bad, he might get surgery sometime in November, December, we'll see. But hopefully Myles Garrett is good because, he's one of the more fun players to watch in the NFL. He will be against Andrew Thomas, who hopefully will have his way with him, but the tackles for the Browns are also questionable. Conklin and Jedrick Wills have not played yet this year. Of course, the Giants might be the lucky team that get to face them for the first time this year. And I'm being sarcastic when I say lucky. Jedrick Wills, of course, a top pick in that 2020, was it 2020? Yeah, 2020 draft. picked behind Andrew Thomas, and Jack Conklin. He had a pretty big injury. I think it was an ACL last year, but he's been a great right tackle for a long time. So those guys might suit up. Guys that are out for Cleveland for sure. One is pretty big, David Njoku, the talented tight end. He's going to be out this game with an ankle injury. And then Pierre Strong, who's like their third string running back, he's going to be out, more of their pass catcher. So that might, it takes away an element of their offense. Their running backs now, Deonta Foreman and Jerome Ford, are not amazing receivers. Ford is a decent receiver, but Pierre Strong is their best receiving back. So that definitely takes away some element of their offense. And I would think everybody else seems all right. We'll see. I mean, there's nobody else listed out for Cleveland, so there are guys on the injury report. Denzel Ward was limited on Friday, but I would think he's good to go. He played last week, so I would think he gets better with time. We'll start with this Browns offense, and I mentioned that they might get both their starting tackles back. That's big. The Browns' passing offense has really been broken for a long time. I mean, ever since they got Deshaun Watson, who of course has came over and has not been the Deshaun Watson they thought they were getting, which is a damn shame. But their passing game, it may be worse than the Giants. I mean, it's pretty bad. We'll see who in fact is worse tomorrow. But Watson, I saw this brought up by Talking Giants on their Twitter, so I'll give them credit for this. But Deshaun Watson had his best game versus his best game as a Brown, I should say, not his best game overall, but Deshaun Watson had his best game as a Cleveland Brown versus the Tennessee Titans last year, and that was, of course, against Shane Bowen's defense, which is concerning. So he went 27 for 33 in that game, 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, and had 16 rushing yards as well. So maybe Deshaun Watson just got lucky that day and it didn't mean anything, or maybe Deshaun Watson is perfectly suited to go against this Shane Bowen defense. We're going to see how that one plays out. Amari Cooper has been pretty bad the first 2 weeks. I mean, people are freaking out in fantasy about him. I wouldn't really be that concerned. It seems like Cooper is going to be fine this year. I just think this might be a get-right game for him. We'll see if Deonte Banks can lock him down or not. And Njoku's out, I mentioned. Jerry Jeudy's been pretty good so far this year. A bit of a surprise. Had a touchdown week 1 in that blowout game versus Dallas. And same for Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore has been pretty, I don't want to say shockingly, but pretty surprisingly involved. I feel like once they acquired Jerry Jeudy, it felt like that might be the end of Elijah Moore ever being anything. I was a huge fan of his coming out of Ole Miss. His career has not really gotten off to the best start, but still a talented player. They have talented receivers. I mean, of course, Njoku being out's big because he's one of the more talented tight ends in football, but they still have 3 good receivers on this team, so they're definitely not like awful at that position. Of course, at running back, there is no Nick Chubb coming off that nasty injury last year. Starts the year on IR, but he is eligible to return at some point this year. We'll see if he does or not. I would think so, but still, that's a tough injury to come back from. Jerome Ford, I mentioned, Deonta Foreman, they will be starting. The Browns' run game has not been that great this year. I feel like without Nick Chubb, they've lost a lot of their identity. Of course, Kareem Hunt's been off the team for a bit now, so he's in, I think, He's in Kansas City now on the practice squad because Pacheco got hurt. But, so this Cleveland Browns running game, which at one point was like one of the best in football, it's not to that point yet. Now, of course, against the Giants, who have gotten killed on the ground this year, there's a chance that can get better. Aaron Jones had success. Last week we saw Brian Robinson have a great game, Austin Eckler as well. So the Giants' run defense has been awful this year, and if Cleveland wants to run the ball, they probably can. So this might be their get-right game in terms of running the ball. The offensive line for the Browns is looking very good. Jedrick Wills, Bitonio's still there. Their center, Pokic, I think that's how you say it, he's been awful. So I think Dexter Lawrence should have a great game in this one. It's kind of like week 1, how the Vikings had the awful interior offensive line, and it was like, all right, this is going to be a great Dexter Lawrence game, and it was. So this is another situation where Lawrence can take advantage of a good matchup. The right guard is Wyatt Teller. Of course, he's great. And then you have Jack Conklin. So the Browns' offensive line, 4 out of 5 guys are like studs. So their offensive line's good. Just that center position versus Dexter Lawrence is the one place the Giants can take advantage. We'll see if Kayvon or if Brian Burns suits up. We'll see if those guys can make an impact. And they need to, because the way you beat this team is to just make Deshaun Watson bad. Because, he doesn't need much help being bad these days, but just turning over Deshaun Watson, having him fumble, making dumb throws. That's the way to beat them. The Browns don't even have like a deep passing game. Every time Deshaun Watson throws a deep ball, it's tough to watch. So they don't have like the downfield threats. I mean, they do receiver-wise. Jerry Jeudy can beat you downfield. Of course, Amari Cooper. But it feels like Deshaun Watson has not been a good deep ball thrower in a long time. He's had the shoulder issues, and I just don't think he's 100% healthy. So they are just more of a short passing offense, but I also mentioned they can run the ball as well. So they might have a lot of long drives, and it might kind of be like last week where they have to get in the end zone. I mean, they don't have to because, of course, the Giants offense may not score a lot themselves, but it might be a lot of long drives. And, of course, with long drives, things can happen in a negative way. We saw that last week with Washington, how they would get down inside the red zone and there would be a holding call, a false start that would kind of ruin the drive, and they would force them to kick a field goal. But it might be the same this week. We'll see if the Browns can execute better and get in the end zone as opposed to what Washington did last week. The Browns defense, they are super talented. I mentioned Myles Garrett with the foot it's described as, but I think it's both once again. That is an issue for Cleveland, but he is one of the best defenders in football. If he's out there, you still have to be scared about him. Denzel Ward is one of the better corners in football, but he is a guy who is a little banged up right now, but he should be good to go once again. He was taking 2 picks after Saquon in that 2018 draft. Greg Newsome, the corner, he plays a lot of slot, but he's a very good corner. I was a big fan of his coming out of, I think it was it Washington? No, it was Northwestern. Good thing I looked that up. Similar colors, so my bad on that one. But yeah, Greg Newsome's a good player. They have some athletic linebackers. Of course, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, one of the more athletic linebackers in football. Jordan Hicks is a bit up there in age now, but he's been a solid player for a long time with the Eagles and the Cardinals, so he's there at linebacker as well. They have some pretty good safeties. Grant Delpit was a pretty high pick. I think he tore his Achilles at one point, but he's came back and played pretty well. The Browns' defensive line's pretty scary. That's a part of this Browns team that might be the best, honestly. Having Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett on the same defensive line is pretty damn good. You have Quentin Jefferson. You have old friend Dalvin Tomlinson. They have Shelby Harris. Like, they have a lot of good players here on this defensive line. Like, a bunch of depth, too. It's not just like they have 2 or 3 great guys. Like, they have great players and great depth. So their defensive line is definitely no joke. Honestly, it's going to be tough for the Giants to score in this game. I did see earlier this week, I haven't checked this in a while, but I doubt it really changed that much. I saw that the Giants had, I think it was either tied for the lowest total. I think they were tied for the lowest implied point total on the week. So Vegas has the Giants scoring only 16 points on offense this week, which is really not that much of a surprise. And if I were to make a score prediction, which I'll try to at the end, I don't see the Browns letting up too many points to the Giants. I'd be surprised. We saw what happened last week versus Washington, and the passing offense actually looked kind of competent. But this game may look closer to week 1 as compared to what we saw last week. I've said it before, Washington has the worst secondary in football, and now you face this Browns team who might be a top 5 defense in football. Jim Schwartz has been a great defensive coordinator for them, so it's going to be tough. It's for the Giants to win this game, I feel like they need a turnover, a big turnover, or like a blocked punt or something. Like, I just don't see the Giants offense going down the field on Cleveland a few times and getting a touchdown, or, you know, getting multiple touchdown drives. It just seems unlikely. So they might need like a fluky type win, but a win would be a win at this point. The Giants defense has to step up. If the Giants defense lets up over like 21 points, that might be too much, or too many. They have to really step up this game and make the Browns offense not look good, keep them under like 17 points maybe. Like, they have to play their asses off to win this game. Now, if the Giants offense does come out and looks great and proves me wrong, that's awesome. I just think based on the implied point total once again and what the Giants offense looked like versus a pretty good defense in week 1, it's going to be a tough task for them. And I know, once again, they looked good last week, but we can't assume that's going to be the regular. I mean, Washington has maybe the worst defense in football. It's up there, or it's down there, I should say. But Cleveland, of course, they're one of the best, and the Giants offense might have their issues, but the offensive line has to be good in this game. I just mentioned Cleveland has a bunch of great depth and great star players on that defensive line, so they have to be good. They've been good this year, so I really can't complain about the offensive line. That has not been the issue for this team. It's been a lot of just discipline issues and the defense not being great, and of course it was a lot of Daniel Jones being bad week 1. So I will say there's a chance they win this game. I just wouldn't expect it to happen. I think if I'm going to predict a final score, I think the 16 implied point total seems pretty accurate. I expect them to score maybe like 13 to 17 points on offense. I'd be surprised if it's something else. So I'll be generous and just give the Giants like 16 points. I'll say Cleveland wins this game. I'll say 24 to 16 or something. 23-16, 24-16, one of those. It should be more of a lowish scoring game, and I'm just not impressed with Cleveland's offense, but same applies for the Giants. Like I feel worse about their offense, and like the offenses are pretty similar, but the thing that really separates these two teams, and I do like their coaching as well. I've always been a Stefanski fan, but the thing that really separates these two teams is the defense. The Browns' defense is a lot better than the Giants' is, and I have not been too thrilled with what I've seen from this Shane Bowen defense. And I mentioned earlier, once again, shout out Talking Giants for this stat, but Deshaun Watson had his best game as a Brown versus Shane Bowen, so that's concerning. So we're going to see how it plays out, but I do expect the Browns to win this one by like 6 points, a touchdown, something like that. So I'm kind of going with the spread, of course, but the spreads usually tend to be right. So, all right, NFL spread pick time. We got back to 500, went 8-7 last week. Now I'm 14-1 on the year. We will start with the Denver Broncos at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers favored by 6 points in this game. I don't love what I see from Denver. I do think with Surtain on Mike Evans, it should be a good game for Chris Godwin. Tampa's defense is a bit banged up in the secondary. Winfield Jr. is probably still out, but I just have not liked what I've seen from Bo Nix at all. So I will go Tampa minus the 6. Houston at Minnesota. A Stephon Diggs revenge game. I knew there was something about this matchup that was like some guy played. Oh, and even Danielle Hunter and Jonathan Grenard. A lot of former players on these teams. All right, anyway. Houston's favored by 2 points on the road against Minnesota. I feel like it's a close game. It's only 2 points, so I think I'll just side with the better team. They're playing in a dome, and I just feel like Houston's offense has been one of the few offenses that actually looks elite this year. A lot of these teams cannot beat this cover 2 for some reason, but Houston has been great. So I'll take Houston minus 2. If the Vikings win this game, it's going to be something like 3-0, Sam Darnold beating San Francisco and Houston back-to-back. I just don't see it, though. I'll take Houston minus 2. Chargers at Steelers. Man, this is like an old-school football game. This is going to be a lot of running attempts, and it's going to be a lot of just probably like 50 carries for each side. It's going to be one of those type of games. But Pittsburgh's favored by 2.5 at home. I guess Justin Herbert's playing. He didn't really practice much this week, but I'm assuming he'll be playing. He admitted he had a high ankle sprain. He was also dealing with the plantar fasciitis in the preseason, so I think Pittsburgh's the healthier team right now, and the Chargers have been a good story so far, but look at who the Chargers played. They played the Raiders and the Panthers, some of the easiest teams to run against, not named the Giants, and Dobbins has been great this year. The running offense has been great for the Chargers, but this is a real task here, so I think I'll take Pittsburgh. Justin Fields has been playing smart football so far. He's not been turning it over, so Pittsburgh minus 2.5 for me. The Eagles at the Saints. And look at this. I cannot believe it. If you told me this a month ago, I would have said you're crazy, or maybe Jalen Hurts is injured, which he's not. A.J. Brown's hurt, which is big, but still. The Saints are favorites by 2.5 at home here. Philly had the win locked up last Monday. Of course, Saquon Barkley slipped right through his fingertips. That's a damn shame. But yeah, I think it's a tough one because are the Saints legit? I do want to buy into the offense. I think with the new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, this offense is actually pretty damn good, and the Eagles do have some injuries, and they're coming off a tough loss, and this is a big game for Philly, honestly. It really is. I mean, I think I want to take Philly, but I can definitely see where the Saints win this game, so I'll just take the point, I'll take the points. I'll take Philly plus 2.5 on the road. I think they're alive to win the game, so I'll just take them, but if the Saints go out there and have another massive offensive performance, I will not be too shocked either. So can they contain Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave? Like, it's been weird because the only 3 guys that are doing anything are those 2 and Alvin Kamara. So I don't know. The Saints are getting it done so far, but we'll see if they can keep it up once again. But I will take the Eagles plus 2.5. The Packers at the Titans, it should be another game of Malik Willis, although Jordan Love, they keep saying is questionable, will be a game-time call. I would still be surprised if it is him because right now the Titans are favored by 3 points. It is a Malik Willis revenge game, which he doesn't seem to care. He did have a pretty nice answer about, like, he doesn't care because the Titans gave him a chance to play in the NFL and they believed in him. So it was a good answer by Malik Willis. But Titans minus 3, I think I'll take Tennessee because I just think their defense is good enough to win this game. Josh Jacobs is banged up. He has a back injury, which you never know how that's going to affect a player. And I feel like Will Levis is eventually going to have a good game, and I think this could be a chance he can do it. So I'll take Tennessee minus 3. I also like the way that Tony Pollard's looked this year. So, yeah, I'll take Tennessee here by a field goal. Giants at the Browns. Browns minus 6.5. I mean, I'm teetering between 6 and 7. The spread's 6.5, so I don't know what to think. I'll just take Cleveland. Cleveland minus 6.5. I just don't trust the Giants right now for obvious reasons. So Cleveland minus 6.5. Bears at Colts. This should be an interesting, another like low scoring type of game. So it is Colts by 1. I don't know if I like that or not because the Colts run defense has been awful. DeForest Buckner is now on IR, who's their best defensive lineman. So I, of course, love Anthony Richardson. I want to see him do well, but I think the Bears right now might be the better team. So I will take the Bears as a plus 1. I don't love it, of course, but I will take it if Richardson goes out there and scores me 30 fantasy points. I'll be a happy man, but for the sake of this, I'll take the Bears plus 1. Dolphins at Seahawks, no Tua. Seahawks favored by 4.5. Skylar Thompson gets the start. I like Seattle a lot this year. They've played some bad teams early, but still, I will take Seattle minus 4.5. I just don't fear this Miami team the same way I do, especially on the road. I don't love Miami on the road in the first place, even if Tua was playing. But now it's Skylar Thompson. Yeah, I'll take Seahawks minus 4.5. The Panthers at the Raiders, man. The Raiders are favored by 6 points in 2024. Look at that. Andy Dalton starting, of course, for Bryce Young. Pretty shocking news we got on Monday. I think a lot of people want to take Carolina. I don't want to be a sucker and do that, but 6 points is a lot, especially for a Raiders team. So I think I'll just take Carolina plus 6. I don't like it, but I think I'll just do it because it's just hard to see the Raiders winning by that much. So we'll see how that goes. Carolina plus 6 for me. Ravens at Cowboys, a big game for both teams. The Ravens are 0-2, Cowboys 1-1. Might be a must-win for Baltimore. Baltimore's favored by 1 on the road. And I guess the good news for Baltimore is that the Bengals are also 0-2, so they're like the other big threat to win that division. There's Cleveland, of course, and who's the other team? Oh, the Steelers. The Steelers are undefeated, so they might go 3-0 this week, but I don't know how sustainable that is. But anyway, I'll take Baltimore minus 1. I think this is the spot they get their win. I just feel like with a spread like this, it's so close, you just have to say which team do you like better. And I think I do like the Baltimore Ravens more. I think they will get this win. It should be a good game. I kind of like that it's a 425 game. It's more of like, not on an island, of course, but there's 3 other games at 4. But still, we can pay close attention to that one. It's going to be a good one, I feel like. So Baltimore minus 1 for me. San Francisco at the Rams. The Niners are 6.5-point favorites on the road. The Rams have so many injuries, but so do the 49ers. They're missing Debo. They're missing McCaffrey. They're probably missing George Kittle, who's doubtful. So a lot of injuries on both sides. I feel like with so many injuries on both sides, it's going to be tough to take a team by 6.5, but with the Rams' offensive line being banged up too, I mean, Stafford is a gamer, though. I don't know. I think I'll just take the points. I'll just take the Rams plus 6.5. They are home. It's probably going to be 70% Niners fans anyway, but still, I just feel like I have faith in Matthew Stafford to keep that game close. It did not go well for them last week in Arizona, but I don't know. It's always a close game between these two teams. It's different because everybody's hurt this time, but I don't know. It's too many points. Rams plus 6.5. Lions at the Cardinals. Lions are 3-point favorites on the road. The Cardinals may be a team we have to start taking seriously. Like, they might actually be kind of good. And maybe they beat up on a very injured Rams team last week. Maybe that's why. But they had a very nice win last week. I think I'll take the Lions -3. I don't love the way Goff has looked this year, but this seems like a nice bounce back spot. I'm not a huge fan of that Cardinals defense still, so I'll take the Lions -3 on the road. Sunday night is the Chiefs at the Falcons. The Chiefs are favored by 3 points. The Chiefs are 2-0, but they could easily have been 0-2. So I don't know what to think about them right now. It just seems like the Chiefs are kind of like in that autopilot, half-assing it mode, and they'll make the playoffs, of course, and then probably win the Super Bowl again. But the Falcons looked good last week. We saw Kirk Cousins look more healthy. That was big. They are 3-point dogs. I think I'll take the Falcons. I'll take the Falcons +3. Why not? I mean, it could be a field goal game, so I'll just take the points in that one. I'll take the Falcons. Monday night is a doubleheader. I kind of like that. They did it last year. I remember that game. The Giants beat the Packers. They also had that game on Monday. It was the Dolphins hosting the Titans, and the Titans made that nice comeback at the end. So that was a great doubleheader of football right there. Some Tommy Cutlets victory, and then you had the Levis comeback in Miami. So the earlier game, which starts about 40 minutes before the other one, is the Jaguars at the Bills. The Bills are favorites by 5 points. It's a tough one because Jacksonville's looked so bad, but Buffalo, although they won by a lot last week, I still feel like they're not an elite team. I hate to say it, but Buffalo's had so many defensive injuries. Their best corner, their best linebackers out. Like, it's hard to imagine how they're doing all this still. So a lot of credit to McDermott, but it is a good amount of points. I think I'll take Jacksonville +5. They have to get right at some point. I don't know if Jacksonville's this bad. Maybe they are, but I'll take the points. Jacksonville +5 for me. Commanders at the Bengals. Bengals favorites by 7. This should be the game that Joe Burrow in the passing game goes nuclear. They might get T. Higgins back. He gets an extra day of rest. So I think the Bengals win this one by a lot. That's how I feel about it. So Bengals -7 for me. Once again, we're at 500 for these spread picks. Hopefully next week we're over 500 by a good amount, so we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully tomorrow night we have something good to talk about with this Giants team and not talking about Brian Daboll getting fired soon and whatnot. But hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys next time.